Hi. Hi, my name is Jenny Gardipy. I'm from Beardy's and Okamasas First Nation in Saskatchewan. I was born August 15th, 1972 in Rostern, Saskatchewan. When I first when I first heard of the virus, it was March 12th. It was my daughter's 18th birthday, my baby girl's 18th birthday. And we were having a little birthday party for her. And I was getting ready, packing up because I was flying out to Vancouver on that Friday. March 13th was my flight, and I was going to be in Vancouver for a student gathering. I had a poster that I was accepted in Vancouver. So we had just finished the birthday party, and I had packed my clothes for the weekend. And I'm mostly like dress clothes, like 2 dress pants and a nice dress shirt and some travel clothes. So it's just like basically I had like 4 sets of clothes, one pair of boots, and it was still winter, so I had like my winter jacket, and I was going to camp in Saskatoon at my other daughter's place, and then go early in the morning to Vancouver. So I was on my way to Saskatoon, and I received an email. And I checked it when I was at my daughter's place, and it said the flight to Vancouver was canceled because they was starting to do a lockdown and everything. So I thought, okay, so my flight is canceled, but the student gathering was still going on. And then, sorry about that. And then I received another email from the gathering that late night, stating that the student gathering was canceled due to the country going to be in a lockdown. That's when I knew, wow, this must be really serious. This must be something that's going to really make an impact, because they are locking down Canada. I realized the severity of this virus when they locked down Italy. When I heard about it, I think it was on the 12th, I heard that they had locked down Italy, and that they were having talks of possibly locking down Canada. And I realized, wow, this must be really serious. This virus must be something that's like going to be deadly. So I went to I had another daughter that lived in Regina with my 2 grandsons, and she didn't have transportation. And I didn't want my grandchildren, she has 2 of my grandsons, I didn't want them to be riding the bus, because I didn't know how this virus was. I didn't know where it was. Nobody seemed to know anything about it. So that's how I felt. Like I didn't know what the virus was or anything, but I knew it was something that was could be very deadly. So I went to Regina that following day to go and spend the weekend with my daughter and see if she needed anything. And then as the weekend progressed, there were more lockdowns, and there was more, it was in the news, constantly in the news. So I thought, okay, I've been traveling a lot, and they talked about like traveling, and your risk would be higher if you were traveling a lot. So I was traveling this last year a lot, throughout Canada for a work-related travel. And I was living with my mother in my community at the time, so I didn't want to go back home because I didn't know if I could be at risk or if I carried the virus or anything, because I was traveling all over. So I decided not to go back to my mother's place in my community. So I went to Regina, stayed with my daughter for the weekend, and then she works for the federal government, and she went to work, and I kept my grandsons home at her place instead of them going to the daycare or them catching the bus. And then she came home not long after Monday morning, and she said, we all got sent home. We are only essential workers are supposed to be in the office. So I'm not an essential worker, she said, so I'm going to be staying home, working from home. And I said, okay. So then I was wondering, what do we do now? I didn't want to go back to my mom's, especially if I was going to take my grandsons with me with my daughter, and they're very rambunctious. And I know my mom, it would have been very stressful for my mom, because we were living in a house, but it wasn't there. It's a nice size house, but it wasn't for all of us. It wouldn't be a nice size house. It would have been too crowded. So my first thought was, I need to find a place. So I took out some of my savings, and with the help of a friend of mine, we got an Airbnb. We rented the Airbnb for the month, and then we stayed in the Airbnb for a month and a half until I found this house that I'm living in. Finding a house in Saskatoon was a little bit more difficult, challenging, because we had to respect the guidelines of social distancing and not being in a location where other people that we weren't living with in a closed environment. So I only got to view this house through pictures, but I love this home. Anyways, that's kind of how I'm leading into the next question, how my life changed as a result of this pandemic. I moved to the city just to be closer to my children and my grandchildren, and for us to have more space, because living in my community with my mom, it would have been very challenging, especially for her. She's older and she likes to have quiet, and I have 4 grandchildren, and they are very rambunctious, and I want them to just enjoy being kids. So I got us a place here in Saskatoon. So we stayed in an Airbnb for a month and a half, and during that month and a half, we didn't go out, we didn't do anything. I had a friend that was willingly getting us groceries and helping us whatever we needed. She would help us. And I have autoimmune disease, so I'm also immune compromised, and that's what I try to stress to my children, is that I have immune compromised, so I would be more at risk if I were to get this virus, because it attacks the lungs. And so we really stayed with the social distancing, and we didn't go out unless we really, really had to for the month and a half. Then we moved here, and that's kind of how life kind of changed. And I should go back. I'm in my second year PhD. So while we were in lockdown, I had to finish my first year courses. And that was challenging, because I was stressed, and not sure what was happening. And the anxiety, I also have anxiety, so that really was elevated when we went into lockdown. I was homeless, I had anxiety, I had to finish this course, and I don't know how I did it, but I managed to finish my coursework, and I passed my classes. I'm thankful for that. But yeah, so I'm in my second year PhD, and I have always just went home, went to school, worked, So I didn't really do much beyond that. So being confined to home wasn't a big change for me because I've always just been home anyways. That wasn't a big change for me, but my teenagers, it was a big change for them because they like to be around their friends. And that was a big challenge for us, was because they needed their friends. And so I tried my best to accommodate them, and they each have like a cell phone or a tablet, and they're able to communicate with their friends that way. So I try and encourage that. I'm also trying to encourage physical activity. I'm also certified yoga teacher with the Saskatchewan Indigenous Yoga Association. So I also have yoga has really helped us with moving the energies and helping us feel a little bit better. And in everyday ways, our life has changed. We moved to the city. We are more cognizant of what we do when we leave our home. I make sure that everybody has a mask. We don't know who has it or who doesn't have it. We smudge just about every day. I try and encourage having our sharing circles for my children, just so they have a place that they can feel heard. And if when you're confined to a place, it's really hard sometimes when people kind of get on your nerves. So one thing that we've tried to do is have the sharing circles. That was something I really reinforced when we were staying at the Airbnb. And also to try and encourage some fun activities. I also tried to have laughter, just to try and ease everybody's stress and tension. So that's how I've used my culture, my ways of being as a Neheo a Cree woman, was to either smudge or use our sharing circles. We use laughter. To me, that's very important. And I've also used yoga as a way of releasing. My sons now have skateboards, so they use their skateboards as a way of getting outside and physical activity. And the lessons I think I'd like to share about with this experience, being confined, and I keep saying confined, but it's with social distancing, and is for us to always be prepared. Be prepared for anything that could come your way, but not to be afraid. To be adaptable, but not to, sway too far off the path or anything. To be mindful of your place in this world, and to be kind. That's such a big thing. When we're going out there, I'm always wearing a mask, and I know right now not many people wear masks, and it feels like I'm like the only one wearing a mask sometimes, but I try not to let it get to me, because I know I'm doing my part. And to me, wearing a mask is being kind, and being kind is very important to me. And another thing, a lesson I think for my family, is that they cherish now what they had. I am a mother of 6 and a grandmother of 4. I have 3 children that are adults and they're on their own, and I have 3 teenagers that are living with me. And the first 3 experienced me as I was an alcoholic, and they've seen me in that my worst of my life. And my last 3 did not see any of that. So the last 3, I feel like they're a little bit entitled. They they expected a lot, and they didn't feel like they had to work or anything for anything. But now that this has all happened, I think it kind of opened their eyes, and I feel like they cherished what their life was prior to this. They loved their friends. They loved how life was before this, and they're starting to adapt to the change. But I think that they realize that they're not invincible, and that they do respect a little bit more. And I think it's a wake-up call for them and for all of us. For my community, Beardies, I feel like this has shown that they can come together, because they set up check stops at every entrance of the community, and they made sure, only people that were from the community were in and out of the community. And I just feel like everybody wants to do good, and everybody wants to protect our elders and protect the people that are more vulnerable to this virus. So everybody there is respecting each other and trying their best to keep everybody safe that needs to be safe. I feel like that's my community, and I'm sure a lot of other First Nations communities have been doing the same thing. That's one thing you don't hear in the news often, is our First Nations communities have went above and beyond for their communities, and I think that should be highlighted, because we have strong leadership in a lot of our communities, and that's not really acknowledged a lot of the times. And for society, I feel like the lesson that we have learned as a society is that we are not in control of everything. It could be all taken away just like that. And it's been shown. It was an eye-opener. It was like, wow, this could really happen. We could all go on lockdown, and if we don't listen, then what happened? And it also shows me that we need to cherish each other and cherish our relationships. In my language, our relationships is called kinship, and that would be wakutuin. And it also showed me that the earth doesn't need us. We need the earth, and the earth would be just fine without us.